Thank you. I am Kevon Abrahams, the Democratic Minority Leader of the Nassau County Legislature, and I am proud to deliver the Democratic response to the state of our county at the Nassau County Museum of American Armor, a venue which pays homage to America's greatest generation. The men and women who fought and worked to defend our freedom during World War II. Their sacrifice is a lesson to young people, as well as all of our residents, that when you have a united mission, they can overcome even the most difficult obstacles. This time last year, we were well aware of how broken Nassau County's finances were due to years of fiscal and mismanagement. But in April of 2015, we were delivered a shocking blow. We found out that Nassau County was at the center of a federal corruption investigation of Dean Skelos and his son. Only 7 months later, they would both be found guilty of using the Nassau County procurement system for their own personal gain. The contract that brought shame upon Nassau and his county executive, Ed Mangano, is better known as the Abtec scandal. And at the moment it hit, we realized it wasn't just Nassau's finances that were broken, but that the foundation of this county's integrity had also been shattered. Providing checks and balances to protect your hard-earned taxpayer dollars from being wasted and susceptible to deceit and corruption is a minimal expectation of your county government. From the moment the Abtec scandal hit, we began to examine the county's contract procurement system and propose safeguards that would ensure that what Dean Skelos and his son did would never happen again. So in the days after Abtec hit, we began our lonely battle for reform of a broken contract process that was ripe for waste and fraud, vulnerable to abuse, and had become a statewide example of the real need for transparency and disclosure. And while we hope to have Republican partners in this crusade to protect against the waste of taxpayer funds and restore a moral compass of our county government, we continually find ourselves alone. During 2015, we did our due diligence as your taxpayer watchdogs by filing 5 bills that would have provided more transparency for county government and had real safeguards to protect its finances while preventing the kind of public corruption that allowed Dean Skelos to abuse the system. Unfortunately, not one of them were brought to the floor by Presiding Officer Norma Gonzalez. So we started again in 2016, making it our year-long mission to make Nassau work for you, rather than the pay-to-play insiders whom the Republican lawmakers seem to be favoring. Once again, we have had little support, and it was not until just last week, over 300 days after the Abtec scandal hit, that we got the faintest glimmer of reform. They modified and filed one of our bills to end the $25,000 contract threshold that allows the administration to avoid legislative oversight. Because of the tireless efforts of the Nassau County Democratic Caucus, we continually will fight to make sure that this becomes a part of a vote next week and become law. Therefore, only under the pressure of yet another embarrassing contract scandal has the administration even taken a small step toward reform. And while all this is upsetting to us, as the people elected to represent you, let's take a moment to share how this affects you. Everyone knows Nassau residents are overtaxed, but let's be clear. The county executive has wasted taxpayer dollars on pay-to-play contracts. Every year, the county spends, on average, $500 million in contracts alone. Imagine every time a pay-to-play contract is awarded, your taxpayer dollars are wasted. Every dollar spent on unnecessary contracts is a dollar stolen from your pocket. You are being forced to work to support the politically connected insiders who are putting their interests above yours, and enough is enough. This is why Nassau County needs an independent inspector general. How many scandals need to happen? How many newspaper headlines featuring Nassau County corruption do we need to endure? The Mangano administration cannot police themselves. So, to protect the taxpayer dollars, we must bring someone to do that for us. And that will be an inspector general. Until we have real reform, like an Inspector General, we cannot in good conscience borrow hundreds of millions of dollars for spending on public contracts. If we agree that more oversight is needed on small contracts, like those of under $25,000 threshold, we certainly need to make sure that we have multi-million-dollar contracts like the one like AdTech be covered. Meanwhile, the administration is wasting money on pay-to-play contracts while the real business of county government is being ignored. In the past year, the Nassau County Democratic legislators have filed multiple pieces of legislation that Presiding Officer Norma Gonzalez refused to bring to the floor. For example, when legislator Sheila Bino of Westbury sponsored a bill that would help seniors, disabled veterans, and other vulnerable residents to get an exemption on home alarm fees, the Republican majority ignored the bill, and Norma Gonzalez refused to bring it to the floor. And when legislator Delia DeRichard from Glen Cove sponsored a bill that would have required Nassau County to post simple signs warning pregnant mothers of possible harmful Wi-Fi radiation from routers in public places, the Republican majority chose to ignore it, and Norma Gonzalez refused to bring it to the floor. Norma Gonzalez is failing to do her job as presiding officer. She is quick to bring contracts like AdTech that line the pockets of political insiders like Dean Skelos to the floor, rather than actually fight for issues that are important to Nassau communities. For example, when legislator Ellen Burbaum called on the county to reopen the 6th precinct to make sure Nassau streets are safer for children, Norma Gonzalez and Republican legislators have done nothing. And when legislator Carrie A. Szilagyi rallied with the people of Elmont and Floral Park to stop a casino, Norma Gonzalez and the Republican legislators have done nothing. In the past year, the presiding officer has brought almost no actual pieces of legislation to the floor, while the legislative Democratic minority has filed many important bills that were never allowed to see the light of day. Unfairly, each time one of these bills are not brought to the floor, the Nassau County Legislature is not brought for a public hearing, your voice is being silenced. It is time you demand that Norma Gonzalez start bringing more bills to the floor. Wouldn't you agree that this culture of pay-to-play politics has got to stop? Nassau taxpayers can no longer afford it. Pay-to-play leads to costly and unnecessary tax and fee increases, which Ed Mangano is burdening Nassau working families with. When we fight for an independent Inspector General, we are fighting to end a culture that feeds political insiders before our children. District Attorney Madeline Singer said it best when she called our county contracting system a recipe for corruption. Unfortunately, the policymakers, Ed Mangano and Norma Gonzalez, refused to join our movement for reform to protect taxpayers. Therefore, since we do not have a partner in our Republican lawmaking colleagues, we will need you to be our partner in saving tens of millions of dollars as quantified by the Nassau County District Attorney Office of Taxpayer Funds. We need you, the taxpayer, to call upon the county executive and the presiding officer, Norma Gonzalez, to join with the Democratic caucus and bring real reform like an Inspector General now to Nassau County. In conclusion, together we can end the pay-for-play contracts, save taxpayers tens of millions of dollars, and restore public confidence in our local government once and for all. Once we restore public integrity to Nassau County, we can begin to build a brighter future for our residents and our children. As our greatest generation taught us, if we work together, we can do this. God bless Nassau County. God bless America. Thank you and good night.